The good news is you can do this. And I'm going to encourage you, whatever you've been through, my prayers are with you, my thoughts are with you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rola Kinoko, psychologist, and today I want to talk to you about how to help a defiant child follow rules. Before I continue with this topic, please subscribe, press that notification bell so that you would have immediate access to my videos. Also, please follow me on social media at Ask Dr. Rola, AskDrRola. I did a video last week, and I'm gonna leave a link for that because that video is a foundation for today's video. And in that video, I talked about how to engage a child who is oppositional in a positive way. How to use what we call selective attention. This is a continuation of that. And I would love you to review that as well to give you a good foundation as related to helping a child who is typically defiant to be more compliant. This also will be beneficial for a child who is inconsistent in following rules. They may do well sometimes for a short time and then they tend to regress. This is about what you as a parent can do and should do to improve compliance. My goal in talking about this topic is to increase your sense of hope as a parent. Many parents feel helpless, feel like they run out of options as far as being able to help their child to do better, to reduce the stress in the family, to even to help the child to follow rules at school. This is to build hope for you and to make you to understand that you do have options and that some of those options would involve unlearning some things we're doing and learning new things. I need to make it clear that you may have other children in the family who don't have this challenge. So whatever you were doing for those children worked. But for this child who is defiant and oppositional, there are some strategies that need to be put in place that you may have not needed to put in place for your other children. I'm emphasizing this because oftentimes parents will think, why am I going through this with this particular child? I didn't have this problem with the other children, but every child is different. And as a parent of two adult young women, I have come to the terms with the reality that parenting is a learning process and is also empowering. What may work easily for one may not work easily for the other, but it still empowers me as a parent to become more strategic and be more resourceful in my parenting. As a psychologist, I've worked with children for many years. One of my pre-doctoral experiences was working in a school for children who were emotionally disturbed. These were children who were not able to function in regular school. They've been kicked out of regular school, they've been suspended, they've been expelled, and this school is directed towards educating those children. These behavioral problems in this school was so severe to where the school actually had a right to restrain the children if they acted out. We had a quiet room. This is very unusual unusual rights that the school has, but because of the severity of the behavioral problem that the children had, in times when the child was trying to act out or do something dangerous to themselves or others, the staff did have the right to restrain them. In this school, I worked with parents, I worked with staff, and I also provided play therapy to the children that we were working with. And then in private practice through the years, I have continued to work with children as young as the age of 4 or 5. I know that you can do better as a parent in terms of knowing how to handle your child. And I understand the frustration that parents do have, but we want to try to redirect that frustration in a way that is positive. If we take out the frustration we have as parents on our kids all the time, that would lead to more negative consequences. And this is what this video is about. How do you help a child who is defiant to follow rules better? Before I go into that directly, following up on the last video, I want you to be immediate when you offer praise to your child. When a child is defiant and they've been acting out for a long time, you want to not ignore their behavior when they're doing right. Be immediate with giving praise. Also be immediate with giving consequences, like a form of taking something away or depriving them of something, whatever that is, do it immediately. For a child that is defiant, if you don't do that, it doesn't hold the kind of meaning that it should hold in order to influence the change in behavior. Be specific with your requests. I know you're frustrated, you've had a long day, but if a kid who is typically defiant or inconsistent, even some kids who are not inconsistent, who tend to follow rules, if they have to deal with us dishing out commands as parents that are not specific, it can get very confusing. And it's very difficult for them to really respect your authority when you are not specific. I'm going to also add here that do not give out backhanded compliments, such as, you should have done this room already anyway. Didn't you know you had to do that? Try to be positive and firm in your approach, not negative and, roundabout questions. Be straightforward. You're the authority, you're the parent, and you want to come across in a way that your child takes you seriously. I want to really go deep now into how to help them to follow rules. Number one, make sure that the request that you're making of your child is a request that you are focused and invested in them following through on and completing. Sometimes we ask children to do things, but we're not really invested in making sure they've completed. That's not a good thing. That means a kid can do half of it or barely none, and 1 minute you don't react and the next minute you do. That level of inconsistency makes it difficult for a defiant child to follow rules better. So if you give a command, you must be invested in following through on it to make sure that that request is done and completed. If the child follows, like I said earlier, and does what you ask them to do, inspect to make sure that that request was completed and praise immediately. If they don't complete it, give immediate feedback and consequence. Either finish what needs to happen or some other thing that the consequence will be. The next thing to pay attention to, give your commands. Do not request when you're talking to your children. Give a command. Give it simply. Not too many instructions at the same time. Give it directly, which means you're making eye contact. You're not just talking to several children, you're talking to that child. Preferably call the child by name so you get their attention. And use a business-like tone. Do not do it like, oh, can you please help me? You're not asking for a favor. It is not a question, it is a command. And I've worked with a lot of parents who like to ask a lot of questions and plead with their kids. They're always frustrated in the end. It feels good in the moment, but you are establishing authority here and you're training your child to understand that when an authority gives a command and that command is appropriate, it needs to be followed through. You're setting the foundation for your child to do well at school, to relate well in other settings, and really to prepare them to be successful when they become college students and adults. Simply, directly, and businesslike. Do not give too many commands at the same time, which means you have to be patient as a parent here. So many things could be going on in your mind about what you want them to do, and you're frustrated and you had a long day. It may be helpful for you to write down the things you want them to do so you don't forget. But when you're given the command, give it no more than one command at a time, one or two. Obviously, understanding the developmental age of that child. A child who is older can take 2 to 3 commands, but for a child who is defiant, it's better to give no more than 2. No more than 2 instructions at a time. If a task is complicated, break it down for yourself and then give the command in increments. So I want you to do this and that. And when you're done with that, then come back and I'll tell you what next to do. This is how you're engaging your child now. If you check out video 1, you will see we have a totally different strategy. This is a different level in terms of you helping your child to follow rules. The next thing to do is make sure that your child is paying attention to you. Oftentimes, parents are giving out commands when the TV's on, when they're playing video games, or there's a lot of noise in the environment. This is a problem because oftentimes the child is not able to fully understand what you're saying, and if they're hearing it, they're not really hearing it, if that makes sense. My second child is a good example of that. Bless my sweetheart. Her name is Ryo. She's now 23 years old, paying all her bills, very responsible young lady. Has a degree in neuroscience from Yale University. I remember Ryo really well coming up. We're like, Ryo, can you do something? When she's watching a TV program, she's like, Mom, huh? She's not a defiant child. She's just paying attention to that TV program and she's lost. Make sure your child has your attention. Ask the child if they're older to turn off the TV, to turn off the video game. If they're younger, you can turn that off because this is a time when you need the child's full attention. And also remember that if a child is looking away from you, make sure they look at you. Some of you come from cultures where you were not encouraged to look at your parent, but I'm going to encourage you as a parent to help your child to look you in the face. That is not a sign of disrespect. That is a sign that they're paying attention to you. And because of your demeanor and your posture is also encouraging respect. Make sure they're listening and watching when you give the command. Take out all those distractions. For children who tend to be defiant or may have attention difficulties, ask the child to repeat back to you what you said. This is important if they really don't want to listen or turning off the TV is a little bit frustrating for them. You want to make sure that you give them that opportunity. You slow down when you're given the command and you give them the opportunity to say back in their own words. And if they don't say it correctly, make the correction and say it back. All this in a calm tone, not as if you're mad or you're frustrated. What you're doing here is you're retraining yourself as a parent to give effective commands, and you're also training your child to understand that when you give out those commands, you mean what you say. And you say what you mean. Very, very important. Repeating the command. I want you to pay attention if the child is a kind of child that you're trying to encourage to do more chores at home. Typically, maybe you have to clean up after them, or they don't do chores and other people just have to do the chores because everyone is used to them not doing it. You want to start to train them to do chores, and chores that are more complicated. Before you get to the place where you begin to give them more complicated chores, right now we're just doing 1 to 2 instructions at a time. We want you as a parent to begin to give what we call fetch commands. FETCH. Giving commands in quick succession within a short period of time and expecting the kid to follow through. What you're doing before you start the chores is that you are training the child to get used to going through these steps with you. This is because you've not had that pattern with this child. This child has been used to doing half, you getting frustrated, and punishment. Now you're establishing this new pattern where you tell the child what to do and they carry it out. Now we're doing fetch commands. It's going to have to be very simple, able to be carried out immediately and quickly. For example, this fetch commands can last for like about maybe 3 to 4 minutes. You can say, get me the Kleenex, get me the tissue. Put this bottle in the fridge. Do you see how simple that is? When they finish that, grab a paper towel. Give me a pen from my office. Help me close that door. Every time that fetch command is followed through, you give an immediate acknowledgement and praise. You're doing a good job. I like it when you do what daddy and mommy says you should do. Daddy says you should do. I like it when you do what mommy says you should do. Look at you. You're so big now. You're doing what mommy is saying. You are so smart. You're acknowledging what the child is doing. After every fetch command, go do this, go do that, go do this, go do that. Preferably no more than 5 to 6 at a time. And I would suggest write it out. And when the kid does it, they do the next one and they do the next one. And you train that child on doing these fetch commands every day for the next 1 to 2 weeks. And at the same time, you're going through these steps of chores being done in smaller levels, like brief kind of chores for the next few weeks. You're doing the fetch commands, quick succession, simple, able to be done immediately, quick enough to be able to do the next one and the next one. And you're also making sure that when you're doing these short kind of term tasks, there's a few commands at a time. That sets the stage for you then to be able to do this larger responsible chores, like cleaning the bathroom, like finishing the room. Some of these chores your child may have been doing in the past, but they're doing it half and half. We're looking for your child to carry out commands to completion, not just half, completion. This is very important. Now, as you're training your child on the fetch commands, and you're also working through giving these effective commands, the eye contact, no more than a few instructions, turning on the TV, turning off the TV, making the child repeat what is being said, you then begin to make a list of chores that your child should be engaging in at home. For these chores, because this is a training process, you don't want to throw too much at the child right away. Make a chore card for each chore. When I was training my daughters to clean up the bathroom, I will literally take them into the bathroom, show them how I clean it, and then watch them clean it. It's kind of like that. If you feel like the child does not know what to do with that particular task, you need to demonstrate what you want that child to do. So make these chore cards and write down step by step what needs to happen. For cleaning the bathroom, maybe wipe down the sink, clean the faucet, change the tissue roll if it needs to be done, spray the bathroom while you're doing that, use a toilet bowl thing. Sorry, I'm talking about the bathroom, sorry. That shows you how much of a mom I am. But my kids have to clean the bathroom. And now when you visit with them, they actually do have really clean homes. Sometimes I'll ask Raya, what are you doing? Mom, I need to clean up this place. It's a little bit messy. I feel like she's done more cleaning now that she's an adult than she was with me. But she was cleaning when she was here. But honestly, making a chore card and breaking down the different aspects of that chore. So when you are ready for that child to do that chore, you hand over the child the card. It could be a 3x5, it could be a 4x6. Written clearly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the chore card for cleaning the bathroom. This is the chore card for cleaning up your room. That way, there's very little arguing about what your expectations are. And then when you go back to check to see if what you have asked them to do is done, you're going to be referencing that chore card in determining whether the job was done. I know this has been a long video, but it's something very important. We're talking about helping a child who is defiant follow rules, and I want you to go ahead and practice this. Whenever you see yourself falling back into unhealthy patterns in terms of parenting, I want you to go back, correct yourself. And as you're training your child, you're also training yourself. I want you to share this with as many people as possible. We all need to do better in terms of how we communicate with our kids. It sets the stage that we want for respect, for peace in the home, and preparing them to be successful adults and know how to engage other adults in the community appropriately. Subscribe, press that notification bell, and thank you so much for listening. And I'll definitely be talking to you soon, by God's grace. Bye now.